If you've ever been ignored in a room where decisions about your future were being made, you'll understand exactly how this story begins. The Miller family called it an annual business summit, but anyone with eyes could tell it was really a performance, an exhibition of wealth, hierarchy, and carefully curated superiority. This year, it was hosted at my brother's estate, a glass and marble monument to inherited confidence. Every detail screamed status. The valet line filled with imported cars, the manicured gardens trimmed within an inch of perfection, the waitstaff trained to disappear into the background, and then there was me. I arrived alone, driving myself, entering through the side driveway they casually suggested I use, so I wouldn't get confused. I adjusted my blazer, tailored, understated, expensive in a way only people who actually earn their money recognize, and took a slow breath before stepping inside. No one greeted me. That wasn't new. Ah, she made it, Catherine said loudly. From across the foyer, her smile polished but empty. My brother's wife had perfected the art of sounding delighted while meaning the opposite. You're just in time. The kitchen staff is still setting up. Maybe you can help coordinate? A few people chuckled. Polite, performative. I nodded calmly, as if that hadn't been a deliberate reminder of where they believed I belonged. What they believed and what was true were two very different things. For 3 years, they'd assumed I was struggling, that my little investment firm was a phase, a hobby, something to keep me occupied while the real business happened without me. While they were busy underestimating me, I was busy buying them out, but we'll get to that. Inside the main conference room, voices rose with familiar authority. My father's voice cut through the air, commanding, dismissive, unquestioned. We'll begin shortly, he said. James will walk us through the numbers. James, my older brother, CEO by birth order rather than merit, he stood at the head of the table, straightening his cufflinks, the smug confidence of someone who had never been challenged in his life. The room was filled with nodding heads, family members who mistook proximity for intelligence. I lingered near the doorway, invisible by design. Sophie, James said without looking at me. Since you're not involved in the meeting, could you check whether the coffee service is ready? Not if I wanted to help. Not would I mind. Just an instruction. I smiled faintly. Of course. As I turned away, my phone buzzed softly in my hand. 10:47. A.m. 30 minutes. That's how long until everything changed. In the kitchen, staff moved quickly, arranging silver trays and delicate china reserved for important guests. I stood among them, blending in, listening through the open doorway as James began his presentation. Miller Industries has never been stronger, he announced confidently. Our growth this quarter exceeds expectations. Profit margins are up, and expansion opportunities are promising. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. If you're enjoying stories like this, stories where truth hides behind confidence, don't forget to subscribe. This one only gets more interesting from here, because the reality was far uglier. Under James's leadership, the company was bleeding money, losses buried in subsidiaries, failed ventures disguised as strategic investments, numbers manipulated, just enough to pass casual scrutiny. Casual scrutiny was all James ever faced. Not mine. My phone buzzed again. Final acquisition executing shortly. Current control, 49.7%. Almost there. My mother appeared in the kitchen doorway, surveying the room with practiced dissatisfaction. Since you're here, she said, make sure they're using the good china. Board members expect standards. Board members who had already voted in favor of removing James. She didn't know that yet. Oh, I need to step outside for a moment, I said politely, already moving toward the garden. Work call, she waved dismissively. Your investment thing? Try not to interrupt. James is discussing important matters. Important matters like the millions missing from the European subsidiary, like the offshore accounts my team had uncovered, like the lies. Outside, sunlight warmed my face as I answered the call. Miss Miller, my counsel said calmly, the final purchase is complete. You now hold 51.3% of Miller Industries. Control is secured. I closed my eyes briefly. 3 years of planning. Thousands of hours. Endless patience. Proceed, I said. Prepare the announcement. Inside, James was still talking. And now, he declared, we're considering acquiring several smaller firms to strengthen our position. My phone buzzed again, this time with a news alert. Trading halted. Miller Industries. Pending major ownership announcement. The room fell silent. I walked back inside. Perfect timing, I said evenly. I believe we should talk about those expansion plans now. Every head turned. James blinked. Sophie, we're in the middle of something important, I finished for him, taking a seat at the table I'd never been allowed to sit at. Yes, I know. Catherine laughed nervously. You really should wait in the kitchen. Instead, I placed my phone on the table. Complex matters, I continued calmly, like the $240 million lost in Asia, or the discrepancies in the European books, or the offshore transfers you forgot to disclose. My father slammed his hand down. That's enough. I tapped my tablet, projecting charts onto the wall. Is it? I asked quietly. The room went still. Lines trended downward. Losses exposed. Lies revealed. James stared at the screen, color draining from his face. Where did you get this? He demanded. My team, I replied. The same team you underestimated for 3 years. If this story is already making your blood pressure rise, go ahead and like the video. It helps more than you know. My phone rang again. I answered on speaker. Miss Miller, the board chairman said. The paperwork is finalized. Shall we issue the press release? James lunged forward. I pulled the phone away. Yes, I said calmly. And please send security to the conference room. That was the moment they realized something was very, very wrong. And this was only the beginning. Silence can be louder than shouting. In that conference room, the kind of silence that followed my announcement felt suffocating, thick, with disbelief, fear, and the slow collapse of long-held assumptions. No one spoke, no one moved. Even James, who had spent his entire life filling rooms with his voice, seemed unsure whether he was allowed to breathe. Security arrived first. 2 men in dark suits stepped in quietly. Professional, efficient, unmistakably real. Their presence shattered whatever hope James had been clinging to, that this was all some elaborate bluff. What is this? He snapped, standing abruptly. Who authorized them to be here? I did, I replied calmly. My father finally looked at me, not through me, not past me, but at me. There was confusion there. And something else. Fear. This is a family company, he said slowly, as if the words themselves carried legal power. You can't just walk in and, it's a publicly traded corporation, I corrected gently, and the shareholders disagree. James laughed, sharp and brittle. Shareholders? Sophie, you can barely afford to. I tapped the screen. Again. Up came the ownership structure. Shell companies, holding groups, offshore funds, all converging into one unmistakable result. Majority ownership, 51.3%. His laughter died instantly. Catherine stood, clutching her handbag like a lifeline. James, she whispered. What is she showing? Nothing, he snapped. It's fabricated. I tilted my head. Is it? I switched slides, failed acquisitions, one after another. Losses disguised as reinvestments. Entire subsidiaries. Bleeding cash while James presented them as growth engines. Gasps rippled around the table. My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. James, she said quietly, why didn't we know about this? He turned on her, panic flashing through his eyes. Because she's lying. She's always been jealous. You know that. Jealous. The word hung in the air, bitter and tired. For years, I said evenly. You told yourselves that I wasn't capable. That I didn't understand business. That I was playing at success while you ran the real world. I leaned forward. So you never bothered to check. The board chairman entered then, followed by two other directors. Their expressions were grave, but respectful. "Toward me, Miss Miller," he said formally. "Everything is prepared. The press release is ready pending your approval." James spun toward them. "You can't be serious. I'm the CEO. "You were," the chairman corrected. "Until approximately 12 minutes ago. If you've ever watched someone realize their entire identity was built on borrowed ground, you'll understand the look on my brother's face in that moment." My father stood slowly. "You all knew," he said, his voice hollow. "You knew and didn't tell us." "We observed," the chairman replied. "For years." While Mr. Miller concealed losses, Ms. Miller demonstrated consistent, transparent success. Catherine's voice trembled. "Ms. Miller? Since when is Sophie?" "Sarah Maxwell," I said calmly. The name hit them like a physical blow. Catherine's eyes widened. "No, that's not possible." My mother shook her head. "Sarah Maxwell is the CEO who turned around Preston Global," I finished. "Who acquired Tech Fusion. Who was named Financial Times CEO of the Year last month." James staggered back into his chair. "That's a lie," he whispered. "I quoted her. I referenced her strategies." "Yes," I said softly. "You did." The irony was almost poetic. For years he had unknowingly admired my work, praised my decisions while dismissing me to the kitchen. My phone buzzed relentlessly now. Messages from relatives who hadn't been invited to the meeting. "What's happening to our stock? Is it true you're taking over? Why is trading halted?" "Because the truth doesn't stay hidden forever." Security approached James again. "Sir," one of them said, "we need you to step away from your devices." "SEC protocol." "SEC?" My mother gasped. I nodded. "They'll be conducting a full forensic audit." James shot to his feet. "You did this to humiliate me." "No," I said quietly. "You did this to yourself. If you're watching this and wondering what you would have done in my place, pause and comment below. Would you have walked away? Or would you have finished what you started?" He turned to our father. "Say something. You built this company." "Yes," I agreed. He did. I pulled up one final chart, shareholder value over time. A steady rise, until James took control. Then a sharp decline. My father stared at the numbers, his shoulders sagging. "I trusted you," he whispered. James said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. The SEC team arrived shortly after, quiet, methodical, unstoppable. Laptops sealed, files copied. Offices secured. My assistant leaned in. "The press is gathering. CNBC, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal." "Good," I replied. "Let them see transparency for once." James was escorted toward the door. Halfway out, he turned back. "The kitchen," he said bitterly. "We sent you to the kitchen." "Yes," I said, meeting his eyes. "And while you were congratulating yourselves, I built something powerful enough to take everything you thought you owned." The door closed behind him. The room felt different after that. Lighter, quieter. The hierarchy they'd enforced for decades was gone. And this was the turning point. Because next came the reckoning. The conference room was quiet now, but the silence was electric. Every eye turned toward me, not with respect yet, but with the stunned recognition that everything they thought they knew had just been dismantled. I leaned back in the chair I had once been banned from, my fingers tracing the smooth mahogany surface. 3 years of planning, of careful patience, had led to this moment. And yet, standing here, I felt the tiniest thrill of vindication, the knowledge that it wasn't just about the money. It was about respect, about proving to the people who underestimated me that I was never invisible. The board chairman cleared his throat. "Miss Miller, shall we begin the emergency shareholder meeting to formalize the leadership transition?" I nodded. "Yes, let's make it official." Around the table, my family fidgeted. My father's expression was one of disbelief tempered by a reluctant pride. He'd always been a visionary, but even he had underestimated me. My mother's hand hovered over her pearls. Catherine clutched her designer bag like it might anchor her to reality. And James? James looked like a man whose world had just collapsed. And in many ways, it had. I pulled up the first set of slides, the company's actual financials over the past 5 years. Declining profits, hidden liabilities, mismanaged acquisitions. Every chart was a mirror of James's failures, amplified by his arrogance. The numbers didn't lie. They couldn't. Notice this, I said,